It's been a minute since we've done an underrated kill streak video. Everyone has their own favorite kill streaks. Maybe you like the ACR 130, maybe you like the chopper gunner, maybe you're someone who likes to help the team out with UAVs. But what about the streaks that nobody ever calls their favorite? Welcome to the channel, everybody. Jimmy or Chaos. Today, we're going to show some love to what I think are the 10 most underrated kill streaks in COD history. You let me know what you think the most underrated streak is in the franchise. Drop a like on the video. Make sure you guys are subscribed with those notifications on. That means ring that little YouTube bell. Check those boxes. And at number 10, the remote turret. I'm saying it, and I know it's probably a confusing pick for some of you to hear, because if you've been watching this channel for a while and me, you know I never really liked it. I'm someone who likes to set my sentry gun down and let the AI do all the work while I keep running around the map, which is the exact opposite of the remote turret. But for how cheap the remote turret was and how much damage you could deal in a short amount of time, I had to look back again. It is underrated. It's not something that I personally would like to use, but I do see why some people swear by it. It's usually pretty small. It's hard to see before it's too late. If you put it in a smart place and you hide somewhere to manually control it, you could single-handedly take down objectives and provide some pretty good support to your team. Again, it's not something I enjoy using, but I do think it's better than people give it credit for. It's not going to match everyone's playstyle, but if it does match your playstyle, you probably love it, and I can respect that. Before we move on, guys, do me a favor. Take 2 seconds and click that link at the top of the description. Just right-click on it so you open another window, unless you're on a phone, and I don't really know how you're going to do it. But go subscribe to the More Chaos Gaming channel. We are covering everything from the PS6 leaks to the Xbox Prime leaks to Witcher 4. I would love to see you guys over there. At number 9, the OG Precision Airstrike. Now, the Precision Airstrike is a name for a new streak in Call of Duty that was introduced in Modern Warfare 2019, where you pull up some binoculars and you mainly mark a target to get blasted by fighter jet machine guns. But back in the original Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 3, the Precision Airstrike was something totally different, and it was underrated. The OG Precision Airstrike would cost you 6 kills, would let you mark a spot on the map from anywhere, meaning you didn't have to have line of sight on the target location like you do in the new games. Then it would quickly get bombed by a squad of fighter jets. It was much more explosive than the new version of the Precision Strike, and since you didn't have to actually take or look at the place you were striking, that meant you could call it in from a much safer location and make some pretty clutch plays for objectives. I mean, like striking a dom flag from the other side of the map, keep it from falling in enemy hands. If you know, you know. The OG version was often overshadowed by other cheap streaks. You had the Predator missile, you had the Harrier Strike, but I always thought it was underrated. It would often only get you 1 to 2 kills. But sometimes you would get lucky with a 3 or 4 or even 5-man strike, and since it could be called in from anywhere, it was really good at holding down dom flags, and that's basically all I played. So yeah. At number 8, the Juggernaut Recon. Yeah, now the Jug is an iconic part of Call of Duty. There's been a handful of different versions of it, with the most popular one being with the most firepower, but the Recon version has popped up a couple times throughout COD history, and it's always been an underrated pick of those who enjoyed objective-based game modes. Would give you a giant bulky armor for you to jog around and soak up damage, but it would also give you a giant riot shield for you to soak up even more damage, and strapped a portable radar to your back so you could give your teammates constant looks at nearby enemies on the minimap. So you weren't going to get a ton of kills with the Juggy Recon, but you were going to rack up the assists, and if you were trying to play a game mode like Dom or Hardpoint, sometimes that would be the difference between winning and losing. Being able to just waltz into an enemy objective and soak up all the damage while constantly pinging everyone on your enemy team radar, it was a great tool for shifting the tide of a battle. It was always really satisfying to see the assist just pop up like popcorn. A lot of people passed over the Juggernaut Recon for something a little more lethal. I enjoyed it. And didn't you have a Deagle, I think, maybe? At number 7, the Recon Drone. It debuted in the original Modern Warfare 3. And it's another streak that was criminally underrated due to the lack of explosions, but it was amazing at racking up assists and capturing objectives. It was this little RC helicopter. You would fly it around, and you would ping enemy players on your team's minimap, at which point you would get an assist when they died. This not only helped you get a lot of XP, it also made it way easier for your team to breach objectives or keep an eye on where the enemy team was spawning or what routes they were taking to get to your dom flags or your hardpoint hills. Plus, Recon Drone was basically an automatic round win in search and destroy, since you would call in at the start of the round, ping the enemy team on your team's minimap, and they were just sitting ducks. Wasn't flashy, but if you were trying to keep your win-loss ratio as high as possible, it was probably your best friend, and it was almost impossible to shoot down. At number 6, the Reaper. Everybody remembers the AC 130, but the original Modern Warfare 3 had what was basically a smaller compact version of it that was super underrated. The Reaper. This would cost you 9 points in the assault package. would let you take control of a UAV loaded with Predator missiles, and you could manually guide them down the map one after another. The ammo capacity was insane on, I think it was loaded with like 14 missiles, and you had 45 seconds to use them all, which was more than enough time to rack up at least a dozen kills, assuming nobody shot you down. Frankly, the only downside of the Reaper was low health. It could pretty quickly be taken out by a SAM turret or a single enemy with a rocket launcher, but even if there was someone on the other team trying to keep the skies clear, you could do some pretty serious damage before getting blown up. I mean, a lot of people skipped over the Reaper for the AC-130, which would only cost you 3 more kills to call in, much more firepower and health, but man, the Reaper was underrated. Now we arrive at the top 5. The Warthog. This Black Ops 2 streak was nuts, but it was never all that popular for some reason. It would cost you an intimidating 1,400 points. Once you called it in, it was basically a stealth bomber that just kept hitting the map over and over and over again for like a minute. Basically, this is what the Strafe run should have been in Modern Warfare 3, and instead of being a bunch of awkward, slow-moving helicopters like the Strafe, the Warthog was one beefy fighter jet that would strafe across the map several times, blast enemy players it got line of sight on, giving you 25 points for every kill easily. Would get you 10 kills in return for calling it in, yet never popular. I think the main reason for the lack of popularity was a simple fact: it was pretty expensive. There was other expensive streaks that would deal more damage. You had the Lodestar, the K9 unit, the Swarm. Yeah, for 1,400 points, the Warthog could sometimes feel a tad underwhelming because you could have just taken out one of those other high-tier streaks into battle, but I loved it. Plus, the sound it made when it flew over the battlefield is one of the most intimidating sounds in COD history. If you heard the Warthog entering the map, you knew you were in for a rough 60 seconds. At number 4, the Flamethrower. Now, the Flamethrower was initially available as an attachment for some of the guns in COD multiplayer, but it was also a streak in games like COD World War II and Black Ops Cold War, where it was underrated both times. I'm not really sure why the Flamethrower wasn't more popular in the games, because if you knew what you were doing, you could rack up 5 to 10 kills with it. It was great. I mean, considering how cheap it was, in COD World War II, the Flamethrower could cost you 700 points, which that's not too difficult to do, especially in objective modes. Black Ops Cold War, I think it was 1,500 points. Again, not that difficult if you were an OBJ player, and in return, you got this giant flamethrower that would set enemy players on fire, almost always kill them in a second or two after making contact, and I think people wrote it off because of the relatively short range. But if you were on a close quarters map and you were paying attention to your surroundings, you could hold down entire lanes of the map by yourself because the enemy literally could not get close to you without instantly burning to a crisp. You have to be smart about your positioning, but if you did, you got so much in return for it. The ROI was insane. Plus, it was just an awesome streak. It's a flamethrower. I really don't know why the flamethrower was underrated in both games, but it was. At number 3, the Mosquito drone. This was reworked as a version of the classic hunter-killer drone from Black Ops 2, and the ways that it differed made it less popular, but I don't think that's fair. The classic hunter-killer was a cheap streak, toss in the air, then it would patrol the map until it saw an enemy player, and then it would dive bomb them. But the Mosquito drone was introduced in Modern Warfare 2 2022, also a cheap aerial drone that would dive bomb the first enemy it saw. But the difference was that instead of patrolling the map like the hunter-killer, it would just hover around the area where it was called in, which sometimes made it feel like it wasn't actually doing anything because it would just hang out in the sky for 20 to 30 seconds before attacking someone or just get shot down. But with that being said, if you knew how to call in the Mosquito, it was insane. You couldn't just toss it in the sky like the hunter-killer. You had to be more conscious of where you were telling it to patrol. So if you called it in while trying to capture a Dom flag or hold a hardpoint hill, you basically had your own mechanical attack dog hovering over you that would dive bomb anybody who tried to contest you. Now, since the Mosquito drone was so cheap in both Modern Warfare 2 and 3, you could get some pretty insane returns on your investment. So may not have been as aggressive or universally helpful as the hunter-killer, but it was strong. At number 2, the SAM turret. You guys really need to be running the SAM turret more often. This baby first appeared in the original Black Ops, has since been on and off recurring in the as a streak in the series. Sometimes shows up, sometimes takes a year off, but whenever it's in the game, it's never a very popular choice because it's not flashy and obviously it's not lethal, but that doesn't mean it's bad. The SAM turret will shoot down any aerial streak that the enemy team calls in, depending on the game you're playing, and it'll do it aggressively. The SAM turret from Black Ops 6 specifically is kind of insane. It often shoots down UAVs and helicopters before they make any impact on the battlefield. I mean, it can do some cheesy things. It can shoot down care package carriers before they reach the battlefield, which is hilarious. Even shoot down player-controlled streaks like the Archangel rockets, which sometimes get you cheesy kills on enemy players who are standing too close. The SAM turret is a great streak. It keeps the skies clear, makes sure the enemy team never has too much of a leg up over you regardless of how many streaks they call in. If you're an XP farmer, they get you so many points in return for setting it on the field. And at number 1 today, I'm going to go with the Scout Pulse. Basically, the modern replacement for the personal radar. I think it's a much better concept. In Modern Warfare 2019, the personal radar was this big, loud, obvious streak that would hover over your head while giving you a little bit of recon on your minimap. But Scout Pulse basically gives you all the advantages of the PR without putting anything over your head, which makes it more useful. And that makes me think, remember the owl, that thing that hung over your head in Ghost? Anyway, it's basically just a personal UAV that doesn't give your location away or hand free points to the enemy team since they don't see anything obvious to shoot down. A lot of people stopped running the Scout Pulse as soon as they unlocked the UAV, but honestly, I think it's worth using because of how much cheaper it was. I know your teammates don't get anything out of it like they do with the traditional UAV, but it's helpful. Super cheap streak that will always help you out and reward you for getting a few kills and objective captures, which is what this is about. Underrated kill streaks. Let me know 2 that were underrated so much that I didn't even mention them, and I'll see you soon.